Welcome, friends. My name is SIlas Ollegario, and I'm the host of Think Onward, a podcast about books, studies, productivity, and lifestyle. Now, after the intro. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I still enjoy the fact that you're here. Why do I say I still enjoy? Because, I say this every single episode, and it's still true. I still love that you took some time out of your schedule to listen to me. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know if you're working out. You're just doing the dishes. You're just being lazy on your couch. I always use the same examples, right? I always use working out and doing the dishes because that's my life. That's what I do here in my home, especially now during this pandemic. Rebecca and we are at home almost 100% of the time. And because in case you don't know, we are still in Brazil. And in Brazil, people our age are not vaccinated yet. So the lockdown is still going on in some places. Although it's a very fake lockdown because people are not staying inside and taking care of themselves. But still, that's not the subject. That's not the thing that I want to talk about today. Okay, we've been talking about pandemic almost every single episode. I know it's kind of weird not to talk about this, not to address this thing because it's a world problem. But that's not what I want to do. Today, I want to talk about something that I enjoy. Also, I want to thank you for people who have been listening to this podcast on my YouTube channel. Because I've been posting these episodes on YouTube. So in case you could not, or in case you're working in your computer and you prefer to listen to a podcast on YouTube, it's totally possible. You just go to SIlas Ollegario and you find every single episode every single Wednesday. At the same time that these episodes are released on Spotify, Deezer, Amazon Music, and of course Apple Podcasts, which is new, has a new feature right now. Now you can subscribe and actually pay for a podcast for a special content. Very nice, right? I'm so far away from that. That's so not a reality for us. But it's very nice to know that now after Apple released the new features and the new things like the new iMac and the new things, new colors, very nice. Now the iMac comes in 7 different colors. But it's very nice to have this opportunity. That means that the podcast community is still growing a lot. I know when we think about media and social media, we normally tend to think about YouTube and Instagram, because YouTube, I think over 2 billion people are on YouTube today. I mean, 2 billion people have a YouTube account. Not that 2 billion people have channels. That's not what I mean. And do you hear that? That's a motorcycle here. Yes, I'm recording at home, but the windows are open because it's very hot. But anyway, so over 2 billion people are probably on YouTube, and the podcast community is not that big, but it's still growing. And with this kind of incentives, it's being incentivized to do something is so much nicer when you see other people are actually also doing something. So you can hope to be here with me for a long time. I love podcasting. I love listening to podcasts. I love now that I have one. I love participating and talking and actually putting my ideas in this place that, I don't know, maybe in the future my kids are going to be able to listen to the things that their dad said years ago. And just this idea is very nice for me. I think it's very valuable. It's the same thing, the same idea, I think, about YouTube. In case you still don't have a YouTube account or you still don't have a YouTube channel, well, just go check mine. You're not going to regret it. It's very simple, but I do go through these things that I believe people always have something to give, even when they don't think they have. They actually do. because nobody knows everything, and probably everyone has a new experience to share, a new insight. If you don't dominate any kind of subject, you don't have to be an expert to have a YouTube channel or a podcast. Definitely, that's not the idea of Think Onward. We have this idea that everybody is able to share something. A life experience, something that you learn about a very specific thing. Doesn't matter. I know I like talking about specific things on this podcast. But you don't need a niche. If you want to create some kind of stuff like that, you don't have to talk about things related to your work, related to your area of expertise. You can actually create a podcast and talk about things that you just like, and that's it. That's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about passion. Passion is something all of us have. At least I find it quite impossible someone claiming they're not passionate about anything. It don't matter if you're new to this podcast already, a frequent listener, because of the intro, the topics we like talking about in here. And it is a no-brainer that those are things I am passionate about. However, replying to one of my friends who asked me why I do not talk about another clear passion of mine, and for those who know me in real life, let's say, I'm a musician. I don't make money out of it, which means I'm not a professional. I play at church, and I'm also the leader of this band, which at church we call it an MD, a music director. I'm a musician basically because I studied music. Ever since I was a child, I was involved with music because of my family, and very early in my life, it became a passion. Normally, I use this platform to talk about books, reading, studying, and etc. And these are passions of mine, absolutely. But before I go ahead and talk about music, I want to make something clear, why I don't necessarily talk about music in this podcast. Again, for those of you who still don't know, I was born in Brazil. My wife and I are on the verge of moving to Canada, something I've said in here multiple times. And because we're still in Brazil, though, I don't have many friends who are able or who are willing to expose themselves in here. The ones who are and who have been here already or have created a schedule with me so they can be here in future episodes. Of course, these are out of this thing that I'm talking about. But again, in Brazil is not known for a high number of people who speak English. In fact, in South America, Brazil is, I think it's the fourth country behind Argentina, Chile, and Colombia, of people who actually have English as their second or third language. With that being said, out of my many friends who love reading and love productivity, and also the ones who love music, not many of them speak English. Speak English enough to carry a conversation. In fact, a couple of days ago, it was suggested to me that I should start yet another podcast, but in Portuguese, so more guests could have come. The idea is not absurd, of course, not at all. But as a new guy doing this, the amount of work, scripts, scheduling, and etc. that I would have to put on my week, on top of my family time with Rebecca and my studies, right now this idea just cannot be put into practice. But anyway, I think that now that I got this out of the way, I can also say that moving to Canada soon will allow us to bring more people as star guests on this podcast. Colleagues from university, maybe even professors, people I haven't met yet. The future of Think Onward is huge, and I hope you can continue to tag along with us throughout this journey. Okay? Now, going back to the actual topic of the week, which is music and passion. I'm going to talk about passion, but related to music. Okay? Let's go from the top. Let's see. Okay. I'm 32 years old today, April 2021. My mom and dad are gone. They are very young. both my parents are 53 and 55 years old. My dad is a maestro, a conductor. He started singing at church when he was only 3 years old, I guess. Also, he started playing the guitar when he was 5 or 6, and decided on a very early age, and that's the story he told me, that music was what he wanted to pursue. It never went through my dad's mind having a different profession other than a musician. Of course, that back in the day, being a musician wasn't necessarily a good idea unless it was a prestigious kind of musician like a pianist or maestro or a violinist. No, but and again, the real thing inside of those things. Let me just point out one thing here. In Brazil, some things are very difficult. Brazil is still one of those countries that if you're not a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, or something like that, if you don't have a high-paying job, it is very difficult to have a high quality of life. Brazil is a country where people get lucky a lot, and we have amazing, huge artists. I'm talking about music, okay? Amazing, huge artists in Brazil. But my father is part of a very small niche, which is not as small in terms of the people who, in terms of selling. No, that's not the idea. But my dad is a gospel artist. He doesn't have a brand. There's no producer behind him or a recording company that bought his record. So for those kind of normal people, life is very difficult. But my father never wanted to be an artist per se. His life was created so he could be a musician. And again, as a musician, things are very complicated, especially because you have to very early make some choices. Maybe, I don't know, maybe not. My father never wanted to play. In Brazil, we say play at night. What it means is when you go to bars and play, this kind of places, that's not the kind of environment he wanted to stay in. And he decided this with my mom, which is, of course, something very important. Because, as a Christian singer and musician, my father was very focused on church stuff and working with other gospel artists. Anyway, so that was a decision, and for these people specifically, it's a very difficult kind of profession, being a musician here. But anyway, continue the story. My dad went off to join the military when he was 18. And there he discovered that it was probably the best path to be a musician with a steady paycheck. In Brazil, the military have official bands, and it is possible to work your entire life as a musician and also a military. However, due to lower back problems, my dad could not continue in the army. He was already engaged to my mom, and they did get married, and 1 year later I was born, and my dad had different jobs, and it wasn't until 1995 that I think 95 and 96, that he could finally maintain our family with the money he was making from music. He kind of specialized into singing and choir training. Today he's successful enough to take care of him and my mom, and when I was young, they placed me and my sister in private schools. So while he was perfecting his skills and studying to become a maestro, we were studying good schools and having a comfortable life. We didn't have much, but we definitely had enough. I'm not gonna go through my mom's side of the story because my lovely mother has never done anything related to music. Actually, she sang in a church choir when she was like 16 or 17 years old. But although she enjoys listening to music, she never wanted anything to do with it, especially not even at church as someone who's just there helping or anything like that. So this part of the story I can now bring 100% to myself. Because of my dad, I was always very surrounded by music. Having CDs at home, for example, was something my dad always kind of invested. So choirs, quartets, orchestra, bands of different styles, from classic to rock or from country to pop. My love for music also came very early in my life. And although I've never considered doing it professionally as my dad, I always wanted to learn how to play different instruments and etc. The drums, oh, the drums. My forever first love. Anyway, my dad found out, even though I loved the drums since I was very young, my dad found that I should study and learn something that would bring me a better idea of music in general, other than what he expected, something very rhythmic, and so very focused on rhythms. So before I could study drums, I went to study some different things. For example, my first instrument was the flute. Flute was the starting point for me officially. After studying flute for a couple of months, I could move on to drums because at that moment my parents noticed that I really enjoyed music, not just the drums. Of course, so I started drums without abandoning the flute. Drums is until this day my instrument. Okay, I do not consider myself other thing than a drummer. I went on to also learn piano in the same music school I learned flute, and today I play the guitar after learning during the summer of 2003. 2002 or 2003? I think it was 2003. After I saw that some of my friends were playing the guitar, we are the summer, good there, our friends around and the girls around, and this guitar was passing around from one hand to another. Everybody was playing one song. And then the guitar came to me and said, "No, I do not play." And I passed to the next one. And then someone said, I remember her name, I'm not going to say it. She said, "Oh my God, you are your dad's son and you don't play the guitar? Oh my goodness, really?" I know she was actually making a joke, but it got me, It really got me. And I remember when I got home, one of the first things I did was to get my dad's guitar. I'm gonna learn this thing. It's not possible. And it's funny, my musician ear already existed. I was a drummer again, but I didn't play any kind of harmony instrument, besides the flute and besides the piano. I was still learning piano. And it's not possible that those guys who play completely wrong the songs and I'm my dad's son and I cannot play it. No, I do not accept this. And I got home and I learned. I remember my first chord was D major. I don't know why, because probably my dad said it was the easiest to learn. Anyway, and that's it. And my relationship with music today is strong and steady. At church, as I said before, I play the drums, and I'm also the leader of the band or music director. And listening to music is not just something I enjoy doing. Listening and playing are part of who I am, A passion that was seated back in my childhood that germinated into one of the things I can say without fear of it. One of the things that defines who I am today in my adult life. During childhood and in my teens, when I decided that my calling was to be a physician, I never considered dropping music. Music is part of my life. It's part of who I am. It is something that took me to very nice places, even though I've never done it professionally, not more than 2 or 3 times. And again, I can only think about good things that music brought to me, And as a future doctor, I understand from what I've listened from different physicians that having a passion other than medicine is extremely important. Because from the moment you go into medical school to those hard days deep into residency, having passion in life is of essence. On my YouTube channel, again, yes, I have a YouTube channel. If you would like to check it out, just type my name, SIlas Ollegario. Okay, Ollegario, Ollegario. And there you'll find some different things from this podcast. In there, I go into other things, including music. And just a week or two ago, I posted a video of me playing at church. And there might be something I would want to take. You might want to take a look at that. But anyway, this idea of having this kind of passion is so important. I understand this is so important, and it's something that I'm not gonna wait to have people over this podcast so I can share this kind of stuff. Because one of the things I noticed for the last maybe 2 months that I've been posting, 3 months that I've been posting episodes on I think Onward, I noticed that sometimes I have to wait on my friends who are going to participate in this podcast, but it's not their podcast. I shouldn't be waiting on them, I should be creating content because it makes me feel happy and because I have stuff to share. And I know podcasts they look more interesting when you have people over and when you're talking to someone and you have guests and etc. But it doesn't mean that I can only have an interesting episode when someone is here. It makes no sense to me. Even though my biggest hits, I mean the episodes which got the biggest amount of downloads are the ones with some friends or any kind of guests. They are not the only ones who people listen to. And I have to try. I'm trying not to do this because of the audience. I know something very, very important is called the spotlight effect. When we think people are paying attention to us, but people are not actually paying attention to what we're doing. People are very busy taking care of their own lives. And I can say for myself, for example, when I'm walking on the street, I'm going to the bakery, I don't know, to buy bread so we can have breakfast. When I'm going, I'm not paying attention to what people are wearing. What are they doing? If they are wearing flip-flops or very expensive shoes, it just never goes through my mind, all that. I'm just very worried. I'm very focused on my steps and listening to my podcast and listening to music. I just don't pay attention to other people. And why should I think that people are paying attention to me? It makes no sense. So in this podcast and on my YouTube channel, I try to go through those things that I enjoy. And I'm not trying to create content that people are going to enjoy, although I hope they do. The idea is not this one. The idea that I'm creating a kind of content that I enjoy and that I like watching, and I want to share with people who might want to live and listen and watch those kind of stuff. So before I go out and create stuff very specific for a kind of group, I just want to create my things, and then the group of people who enjoy these subjects, they are going to find me. That's how I find interesting YouTube channels. That's how I find interest podcasts. And anyway, I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoyed knowing a little bit about my story and how I got to be the person I am today. The way I see, we are shaped throughout life from many different aspects, which makes us who we are. But remember, and this is something I like to repeat as often as possible, having a passion or 5 or 6 passions, different kinds of passion, is important, and it might even help you deal and handle with these difficult times we are all still going through around the world. Keeping in your mind this kind of stuff, and keep your mind doing things that bring you joy, and do so you can always think onward.